Wait, you're telling me that Smallville did it first? Well, I'm not changing the title of this video. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, my name is Demigod Shmurda here. Hello and welcome back to another video and welcome back to another episode of Arrowverse Analysis. I don't have a Suicide Squad shirt, so the boys is gonna have to do. Before the DCEU botched them, and then James Gunn kinda sorta fixed them, it was Arrow and the CW that brought us the live-action Suicide Squad. Arrow's been hinting at this thing being possible ever since halfway through Season 1. In Betrayal, we were introduced to Slade Wilson, who's a member of the squad in certain iterations. In Unfinished Business, we officially get the reveal that Argus exists in this universe. Coincidentally, the next episode, Home Invasion, features the return of Deadshot. Then in Darkness on the Edge of Town, we get the possible reveal of Amanda Waller being behind Fire's operation on Lian Yu. And from there, Season 2 wastes no time introducing Bronze Tiger and casting Cynthia Addai-Robinson to play the head of Argus. This is a setup that probably shouldn't have worked, and something you could have devoted an entire spin-off show to. And spoiler alert, yeah, that's something the writers wanted to do. But if this episode was so good and Arrow was so popular, why didn't we get a series exploring the vast quantity of characters the Suicide Squad has had access to over the years? Well, unsurprisingly, it's because of corporate greed. As it turns out, DC saw how popular the Suicide Squad was on Arrow and decided to do what they're most famous for: cuck the little guys and force them to kill off their IPs. And that's not just me talking out of my ass, this is a pattern. They had Legends of Tomorrow do it too with John Constantine, and the Constantine show still isn't being made. So over the next few years, Arrow was forced to do the unthinkable and kill off Deadshot, Amanda Waller, and any hope of the squad ever returning to the small screen. Hell, they're not even allowed to say the name Suicide Squad anymore. In Season 7, they're forced to refer to the team as the Ghost Initiative because DC just be petty like that. Maybe that all would have been worth it if their big-budget Suicide Squad film was at least good. But unsurprisingly, it ended up being one of the worst comic book movies ever made. Credit to Will Smith, Margot Robbie, and Viola Davis, though. Their performances are some of the only good things in that entire fiasco. So we have a group of really talented, caring, and detail-oriented writers that clearly wanted to work on a spin-off show that now have to quickly and quietly resolve one of the things they've been setting up since late into the first season of their series. And so we're left with one Suicide Squad episode that's really good, one that's pretty alright, and a team that's now forced to kill off some of their best guest characters. But what about the original Suicide Squad episode in Arrow Season 2? Was it really good enough to justify DC stepping in and stealing the premise? Well, in my very subjective and flawed opinion, yes. This episode works great as either a standalone outing or a backdoor pilot. I could definitely see a series spearheaded by Cynthia Addai-Robinson's Amanda Waller and Michael Rowe's Deadshot that eventually picked up more and more stragglers along the way. It could have been like a more grounded version of Legends. And I'll go into my pitch for what the first season of this show could have been like in my wrap-up, so stick around until the end to see that. If this is your first episode and you're wondering how my rating system works, there's a detailed description down below, along with a link to all my other episodes of Overanalysis, but I encourage you to watch this one first, because I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. With that out of the way, let's return to the Overanalysis. After taking a week off, Arrow released its second season's 16th episode on March 19th, 2014. That episode, entitled Suicide Squad, was directed by Larry Teng and was his only contribution to the series. Amanda Waller recruits John to lead a team containing villains he and Oliver have previously faced off against. Their mission is to invade a mansion in Markovia and retrieve a substance capable of mass death. Back home in Starling, Oliver's desperation to stop Slade and keep the people he cares about safe reaches a tipping point, and he goes to some self-destructive ends in an attempt to locate his enemy.
You cannot die until you have known complete despair.
Wait, hang on. His delivery there is slightly different.
Complete despair. Complete despair.
That's a different take than the one they used in the final cut of The Promise. I always like finding little stuff like that. Because it's stuff that, like, you really don't notice. I did it once before. I think it was in Damaged, where they showed footage of an interaction between Oliver and Laurel that didn't happen.
You could never really tell if the Playboy thing was all an act, but I guess after a while, it doesn't really matter.
That scene never happened. That is new footage that we have seen for the first time this episode. That's very interesting. It's always interesting to find little stuff like that, little nuggets of footage that they filmed and then never used. I can see the Bratva tattoo, and it looks like they put that major scar on him. And if I squinted, I could kind of see the Constantine tattoo. I can definitely see where it's supposed to be.
Sarah?
Murderer.
Oh shit, that's creepy. That's a creepy fucking visual. Constantine tattoo is, in fact, there. And I will proceed to call it out every single time. Oh, he called the Bratva.
What can I do for you? There's no gulags here in Stalin City.
Calling back to Keep Your Enemies Closer, one of the episodes I did a quick review on, where Oliver and Dig broke into a Russian gulag to break out Lila, and then Deadshot was also in that episode. Probably calling back to it because this is the episode Deadshot comes back, because this is Suicide Squad.
I need you to find a man for me.
First, I need your assistance with my business. I do a favor for you, and you do one for me.
Ooh, that was a good shot.
I know exactly how this brotherhood works, and right now it works for me.
I need a haircut, I swear.
It's okay if you're scared, I am too.
I'm not scared.
I'm terrified.
What are you doing here, Dig?
Just keeping an eye on things. I have extra security details on Oliver's mother. Roy's keeping an eye on Thea. Sarah's staying close to Laurel.
So I get you sitting outside my house like that lacrosse player my freshman year of college.
I just want to make sure you're okay, Felicity.
And I love you for it. But if Slade wants to kill me, he can. There's nothing you can do to stop him. So go home.
I like that Dig and Felicity actually kind of feel like friends now. One of the biggest problems with late Flash is that it's pretty obvious nobody on the team hangs out when they're not all in that room together. Well, except Chester and Allegra, but they just need to fuck and then leave my screen, and I never want to see either of them again. It's really refreshing to see that the people on Team Arrow actually are friends outside of being on Team Arrow. And you'd think that would come with the territory of making a type of show like this, but Eric Wallace and the Flash have proven that's not the case. Oh wait, this is 1141. Didn't I figure this out already? The importance of 1141. Green Arrow was created on November 1941, 1141. Yeah, no, I already knew what those numbers meant. Credit to the creator of this Reddit post, though, for pointing it out to me. Kandahar. Here's Ted Gaynor from season 1. One of the best villains of the week from that season, by the way. Can we just talk about that?
We need to rest. These women are tired.
Shall I go explain to the ladies why they want to get back before dark?
They're not allowed to talk to you.
Why, because I'm an American?
Because you're a man. 5 minutes.
What's going on?
You recognize that face?
I do recognize that face. That's Agent Stone from the Sonic movies. I was really mad at myself because I remembered before I started recording that he was in this episode, and I wanted to have a much bigger reaction to him being there, but yeah, he is in this episode.
Golem Kadir, opium drug lord and arms dealer.
Why didn't we do fun stuff like this when we were married?
From our busy schedule of driving each other crazy.
Amanda, don't look so worried.
Ooh,
Agent
shit.
Nichols. We've all availed ourselves of the Ostrander suite at some point in our careers.
Oh, okay.
Something's come up. I'll need you to come with me. I meant both of you.
It's a nerve agent.
It's the apocalypse in the form of a chemical weapon. Argus agents uncovered a manufacturing plant in Kondak.
Kondak.
All samples were accounted for, except for one. Our sources have traced the sample through Europe to an estate in Markovia.
Markovia. Wow, we're just getting all the name drops in this episode.
We send in the army, we risk an international spectacle our government can't afford. This has to be off book.
But I'm not sending my boss in on another one of your business trips.
I need you.
What for?
Golem Kadir. The nerve agent's not the only WMD Kadir's tried getting his scummy fingers on. Last month, he tried to buy Malcolm Merlin's prototype earthquake machine.
Wow, bringing that back around. Call back to Tremors. I guess then this line from that quick review that I did is kinda outdated. The people trying to sell Malcolm's earthquake machine are never even mentioned again to my memory.
He remembers you as the man who tried to save his life. The nerve agent's under lock and key at his estate in Markovia. He's scheduled to host a fundraiser there shortly. I don't need you to get the nerve agent out. I need you to get your team in. They're designated Task Force X.
Deadshot, Bronze Tiger, and that fucker from the bomb episode whose only purpose is being introduced to die. I do like that we see inside of Deadshot's cell and we can see these pictures of his daughter, though.
This ain't no task force. Welcome to the Suicide Squad.
Roll credits!
This is a dangerous operation, and these men have useful skills. Should the mission be compromised...
You would just write them off. Yeah, like he would ever make the sacrifice.
Foreshadowing to season 3 when he actually does.
I can't believe you're on board with this. Those men are murderers.
And what's the number of bodies between Oliver Queen and Sarah Lance?
At this point in the show, Oliver's current kill count is 56. Well, 56 on screen. As for Sarah, wait, hang on. There's at least 4 on screen from her at this point.
A year ago, I was in Guyana. I was sent there for a man named Suarez, and I slit his throat.
Sarah did spend some time in the league, though, so let's round that total between Oliver and Sarah together up to at least 100. And yes, that was Tara Strong. And yes, it is heavily implied that that was Harley Quinn. They never got to do anything with her because, you know, we're not allowed to use Batman characters on the CW at this point. But god damn it, did I not want that to be something.
He started by tracing the donation Mr. Wilson made him wear his campaign. All of the money was routed through a series of offshore accounts, none of which linked back to a local address, so I looked into credit card transactions and car rental agreements.
Slade's former aces knows how to be a ghost.
Call back to both the pilot and to the first episode this season, City of Heroes.
Harbinger has eyes on the target. Light the torches.
Deadshot is a go.
Shrapnel's a go.
Tiger's a go.
I do like that they all use their code names. The Flash in particular has been very against using supervillain code names and superhero code names pretty much since Eric Wallace took over. With the exception of Bloodwork and Mirror Bitch, I'm not using the term Mirror Monarch for her. They really haven't given supervillains code names anymore. And it's kind of dumb. I hate it. You're a comic book show. You're trying to be comic booky. Embrace it. Embrace the weird. But don't embrace the bad writing. Don't you already did it. I know you did.
That freelancer in my sights.
Stop me from shooting me right now.
Honor.
Call back again to keep your enemies closer.
If I say she's in there, what's keeping you from shooting me?
Honor.
You know who I am?
Dealing drugs, weapons, and children. Make money while your country burns.
I do not have to be the only one. Trying to bribe my men, Kadir? We want to make a buck. This is the last place we'd be moron. Get down! You like art, my friend?
I know a good investment when I see one.
Out of the military, then.
And in a more lucrative line of work.
A good man turns bad. Bad man turns good. You changed my life, you know. Now, as a free man, I give back when I can. Get down! Do not believe I was the target.
Good job, Deadshot. You're a go for exfil.
Already in motion. Except, shrapnel just bolted.
Stand down and return to the rally point.
I won't be conscripted into your moral army.
Very well.
I told you his entire point of being in this show is to die. The smoke is either from the car or the explosive that they put in the back of his neck, and I honestly couldn't tell you which it is.
They need an incentive to follow orders.
So you rigged their heads with explosives?
Where are we at with Kadir?
Save a man's life once, get a silver star. Save it twice, we're in the tux.
This is Starling City bank account number for your Mr. Wilson. Take this envelope and we are through.
I don't think I need to tell you how desperate Oliver is to stop Slade.
I need to find him.
Yeah, and until then, how long do you think you can keep this up for? You're not eating, you're barely sleeping, and when you do, you have nightmares. You did what you had to do, okay? Ivo was gonna shoot Shadow, or me, or both of us. It was an impossible choice.
I made it anyway.
Still 5 years later, Oliver blames himself for that. I really like this characterization for Oliver. I just do.
He's gonna use you to hurt me, or he's gonna hurt you. Stay away from me.
I know this is a trope of the superhero genre. The hero pushes everyone they care about away when the villain finds out their secret identity, but don't you think, one, that Sarah can handle herself, and that, two, the best way to protect someone would be to keep them close to you instead of pushing them away, because then you can protect them?
Seems like you haven't brought it up. I guess you haven't got very far with that hive lead I gave you.
Bringing that back up, too.
How is it you think your brother ended up dead?
You shot at a client that Andy was protecting and you missed.
Your brother was the contract.
Who would want to kill Andy?
Don't know their names, just an alias. Hive. These problems with your girl, they got you down, huh?
And what about your girl?
They actually bring Zoe up. I didn't think that they would. I've only seen this episode like twice, so I don't remember the details of it. I just remember it's the Suicide Squad episode, which, you know, obviously.
Your daughter know what you do for a living?
She is why I do what I do. Everything I make beyond expenses goes in a blind trust.
The girl needs a father.
Nah, not this father. Best thing I can do for her life, not be in it.
And instantly, Deadshot becomes a much deeper character. He's no longer just the one that got away for John, or the guy who killed John's brother. He's an actual character now. And by the end of this episode, I do remember John does try to save his life.
It would seem I didn't have time to get credentials for my associate.
Come, this way. You're the benefit, Mr. Dickham.
How does Golem Kadir have John's fingerprints? And there's the kid John killed.
When I was in Afghanistan, my unit was tasked with protecting this local warlord, Golem Kadir, when my convoy was ambushed by insurgents. We had him outgunned. The firefight didn't last more than a minute. They were all dead. I knew which one I had killed. When I pulled off his keffiyeh, I could see it was just a kid, no more than 18. I killed this kid to protect this human piece of garbage, and I thought, am I still good?
I think you owe your bodyguard a dance.
Golem is out here trying to play matchmaker.
Fate of the world resting in the hands of Floyd Lawton.
It helps to focus on the mission. We both operate in the gray. The only difference is I'm willing to admit it.
That's not the only difference between us.
That's true. I don't judge other people for it.
Lila, I'm the same man I've always been.
And I'm who I've always been. You're rigid, John. You're blind to any viewpoint that isn't yours. These past few months have been amazing. But we've done more playing than talking.
It's because when we talk, we tend to get divorced.
Shit.
Don't worry, just virgin.
Oh, Laurel's trying to improve herself.
It looks like things with you and Sarah are going well.
After the shit you pulled in Time of Death, Laurel, you are the last person that gets to have an opinion on Oliver and Sarah's relationship.
I'm not sure you're the best person to talk to about all this.
Is it because of the whole cheating, shipwreck, drowning, not drowning, you're back, she's back thing? Sorry, it's brutal AA honesty talking.
I think I preferred it when we were all lying to each other.
No, you just thought you did. I know that you think that you don't deserve to be happy, but you're wrong. You may think that keeping her at arm's length, you're protecting her, but you're not. You're only protecting yourself.
It's more complicated than that.
Is it, though?
I got the address for that account number you gave me. I'll call Roy and Sarah.
No, I'm not giving Slade any more targets.
Pretty sure Slade already had those more targets when, you know, you all showed up at the Queen Mansion, but same reticle they always use for him. Ah, he actually did find Slade's place. And it's through the right side. I'm sorry, how did Slade get this footage? Well, it's no wonder that they had to introduce Shadow's twin sister in Season 3, because otherwise that makes no sense.
I don't know what to do. He's too far ahead. I don't know how to stop him.
You start by letting people help you.
But he's gonna come after you.
Let him come. I'm not the girl he knew on the island.
Yeah, you're an ass kicker now. Probably something I'm going to talk more about in my rating segment, but I like that the developments with Oliver and Sarah in Starling City are a lot slower, a lot smaller scale this week, so that we can focus on what the episode actually wants us to focus on, which is the Suicide Squad stuff. Not that what Oliver and Sarah and Slade, not that all of that is unimportant, but that they wanted to focus more on this story with Dig and Deadshot and Lila.
Harbinger, we've got what I would describe as a little bit of a situation here.
You can actually see the reflection from his eyepiece in the glass here.
The package is much bigger than our pre-op briefing indicated. Deadshot's on target. I need to see what he does. Activate the camera in his eyepiece.
Of fucking course Waller would put one in there.
Tiger, move for extraction. Deadshot remain in position. Harbinger and Freelancer, evac and head to the rally point.
You knew that the nerve agent was too large to be extracted.
Fall back to the rally point.
This is who Amanda Waller is. She's cold. She's downright villainous. She always has like 1,000 cards close to her chest. She knows so much more than she ever lets on. For being essentially like the Nick Fury of the DC universe, although that title is kind of debatable, she does some dark shit. And right here, she's about to send in a drone strike, kill Deadshot, kill all of the people in this mansion, because Waller is just fucking... she's something.
Lila, we have to get these people out of here.
Maybe there's a house alarm we can trigger.
I have a better idea. Excuse me? Golem Kadir excels at everything he puts his mind to. Be it business, philanthropy, or terrorism, like arms trading. Did I mention the sex trafficking? Or the deadly nerve agent that he's holding just 30 feet beneath this very dance floor? Lawton. He's not answering. I have to go help him. I can't believe I just said that.
I was just about to say that.
You were in Afghanistan 6 years ago.
Oh, tigered him.
Disobeying orders, John. Behind you.
Behind you. He doesn't even do anything. He says it first and then does it.
There's an incoming drone strike.
Get your team clear.
You are on my team. It is time for you to go.
And this is my way to go.
Oh shit, he wants to die. Yeah, Deadshot was a much deeper character than I remember him being. But all of his development really comes in this episode. But like with the stuff with Ivo in The Promise, it doesn't feel rushed or forced. It just works. And it just sucks that they just try to recreate this moment in season 3 when he actually does die. And I do still like that episode, but it's just like, they actually did the same moment. I can't make out the name on his arm here.
You don't get to die that easy, Lawton.
Why don't you give me even just one good reason why not?
Zoe.
And you can see the drone turn around.
The drone shifted course. It's following us.
How do you think she knew where to send the drone, huh?
Implants.
Bomb and GPS.
Hold still. This is gonna hurt.
Ooh. There should at least be a little red on his hand, but I'll allow it.
The Markovian government is threatening retaliation following an unprovoked drone attack over a no-fly zone. An explosion atop a chemical weapons cache is easy to explain. Instead, there were witnesses, and we had to send in a SEAL team to clean out the estate.
I guess you would think twice before dragging me in to do your dirty work, Waller.
Somehow, I don't think it will be an issue. Good day, Mr. Diggle.
Yeah, that's who Amanda Waller is.
Kind of uncanny how Diggle knew exactly where Lawton's implant was. Still, it exposed an obvious design flaw. We'll be putting the implants in their spinal vertebrae now. Have Lawton and the others prep for surgery.
Waller said in a few years you might even get a pardon.
We both know I'm not gonna be around that long.
He really wants to die. I do like that you can see his reflection in the glass door here.
What about us, Johnny?
Last night, the man who killed my brother showed more character than the woman charged with protecting the world. Good and bad, it's not so clear to me. One thing I do know for sure is that I can't ever lose you again.
Finally, something we agree on.
By the way, I put you in for a commendation for saving Kadir's ass. You owe me a beer.
They really didn't need to bring Ted Gaynor back for this episode. You could cut him out of the episode and nothing would happen. It would be no different, but I do appreciate that they called the guy and they got the actor back. I do.
Mayoral candidate Moira Queen stumped for an initiative to revive inner-city after-school swim programs. Oh, I remember how much my children enjoyed swimming when they were young.
Thought you hated swimming.
I detest swimming. My mother sometimes enjoys a casual relationship with the truth.
That's a really good line, and I am going to steal it.
Thank you for being there for me.
You mean for not letting you push me away?
I'm gonna stop doing that.
And Laurel's suddenly okay with it. Because I guess when you have an argument in a hallway, all of your priorities get reassigned. She probably has been talking about a lot of this stuff at group therapy, but it's easier to make fun of it, you know?
Thank you for helping me with Sarah. I know that can't be easy.
Helping two people I care about? There's nothing easier.
Aww.
I came by to take Sarah to dinner. Would you care to join?
Oh, wow, and she invites him. Wow. That's some actual fucking character growth. Holy shit, I did not expect that from Laurel.
I'd love to, but I need to go see an old friend.
Oh, what's that in this guy's neck? Is that a fucking trank dart I see? Wow, it's almost like Oliver's not a fucking psychotic murderer. How did they expect to explain this? I know this gets explained at the end of the season when Amanda Waller just shows up on Leanne Yu. I don't think they ever intended to give a full explanation for this.
Hello, Amanda.
Still mad at me?
Lucky for you, you've been pushed down that list.
Really? Who do you want to kill more than me?
Slade Wilson is alive, and I need your help to find him.
There's a new player we've been tracking, mercenary. We've been calling him Deathstroke.
I'm gonna start by giving this episode's plot a 4. I actually like that we don't get much of Oliver and Sarah in this episode so that we can focus more on what the episode really wants us to focus on, that being the Suicide Squad. Or more specifically, John, Lila, and Lawton. Oliver and Sarah's screen time doesn't necessarily take away from the episode, but you can tell the writers only included it because they had to. Even based on the episode's final scene, it's not hard to tell who the writers cared about more this week. That said, I like that the scenes we do get of Oliver and Sarah are much slower and show how good the two of them are for each other. They have a very healthy and supportive relationship, and that makes it feel really great to watch them. Seeing Oliver be really open and vulnerable with Sarah shows just how great of a couple they were. It's kind of a shame nobody acknowledges how good Sarah was for Oliver. Not sure why Oliver didn't just obey the rules of the Bratva though, or at least pretend to like he did in Vertigo. That seemed a lot more like the writers burning that bridge than Oliver doing it. For the sake of the episode's narrative and the progression of Dig and Lawton's relationship, I do like that the drone was targeting Lawton specifically. Thinking about it logically though, it doesn't really make sense. Waller herself says that Lawton has valuable skills, so why purposefully target Lawton's implant if you had confirmation of the location of the nerve gas? Sure, Waller's gonna Waller, but I found that part of the episode to be kinda dumb upon rewatch. The thing is though, Waller made a point to say that John and Lila's only objective was to get the Suicide Squad into the mansion very early in the episode. It's pretty clear that the episode was foreshadowing that moment in the climax, so I'm not gonna dog on it as much as I could. To give the episode more credit though, I like that despite Lila accusing John of being more rigid, it's Lila that tries to stick to Waller's orders. And once she finds out Waller sent a drone to nuke the estate, it's Lila who ends up having to go with the flow and step out of her own rigidity. And in the climax, it might have seemed like John should have been the one to try to remove Lawton's implant since he's John's bad guy, but that moment is symbolic of Lila not entirely siding with Waller anymore. Plus, John and Deadshot already got their moment a minute or two earlier, so it would have felt kinda redundant. The climax is pretty smartly written, actually. In fact, this entire episode is written really smartly. It's structured in a way that there's not a single element of the episode that overstays its welcome. The episode is very slick, smooth, super enjoyable to watch. It has all the qualities of a 5 in plot, but I'm just not 100% on board with that score. I don't have a particular reason, I just don't feel like I can give it a 5. But one thing I do feel like I can give a 5 is characterization. Amanda Waller is written very well here. She's very callous, calculated, and is incapable of giving a shit about anyone or anything. Like I said in my quick review of Keep Your Enemies Closer, she places exactly 0 value on human life. And I'd bet my bottom dollar that that's the reason Argus started the Suicide Squad in the first place. Deadshot's also really well written here. All the developments on his end are kinda sudden, but they don't feel like they come out of nowhere. He's one of those characters that you could always tell the writers wanted to explore more, and they did a great job with them. Him wanting to die during the episode's climax and resolution is honestly downright metal. Despite Golem Kadir being your typical villain of the week, they do give him a decent amount of characterization. Clearly he's still a bad guy, but they gave him this veneer of being whatever the person he's talking to would like to see him as. So for John, he puts on this performance of being a changed man and grateful friend. And I also like that he's not a typical mustache-twirling villain or like some other villains of the week would be. It's pretty refreshing for him to be a little more chill and humble, or at least to act that way. I like the exploration of Oliver's guilt complex and desperation. Slade's clearly living rent-free in his head, and Oliver goes to some really dark places to try to get him out. Even though they didn't focus on it much, and even though I clowned on it a bit during the episode, I do like that Oliver tries to push Sarah away. Since John's gone and Oliver can do Felicity's job on his own, just slower and with a bit less preciseness, Oliver's base instinct is to try and go it alone. The only problem is that he doesn't realize that he's putting everyone else in more danger if he pushes them away. But when you're tunnel visioning, it can be hard to listen to reason, and it's a hell of a lot easier to just keep focusing on your goal. I get it. Hell, I even like that they got Ted Gaynor back, and we got to see that he was actually a good soldier at some point in his life. He's even against the idea of taking Golem's bribe. Really, the only negative is that they didn't really do much with Bronze Tiger, but I'll give him a pass on that since he's not supposed to be the main focus of the episode. And I already talked about the John Lila stuff in the plot segment, but to double down on it, the episode really makes it seem like John and Lila aren't a good pairing. They clearly care a lot about each other, but even as far in as season 7, Lila and John operate very differently. And that line where John says, "That's because when we talk, we tend to get divorced," is very telling of their relationship. I wouldn't even say that John's rigid considering that he works with Oliver Queen, just that he puts more emphasis on emotion than logic. That's even what allows him to get through to Deadshot in the episode's climax. Visuals are gonna get the typical 3. One of the things that really bothered me while editing is that the background music overpowered the actors talking at some points. But considering I didn't notice it when I was watching the episode, that shouldn't really be that much of a problem. That drone was really obviously fake, but there wasn't anything else too notable in the episode. I do like that they kept Deadshot's tattoos, though. I should mention that the Ostrander Hotel is a reference to John Ostrander, who created the modern Suicide Squad during January of 1987 as a part of the Legends storyline. But importance is where this episode's gotta take a hit, because as much as I would love to score it a little bit higher, I can only justify a 3, and it's only that high because it's this episode. The developments are a lot smaller in this one, and for the most part, it's a pretty skippable episode. But because it was such a big deal that the Suicide Squad showed up on Arrow, I gotta give this episode extra points. It is worth noting, however, that this episode establishes Amanda Waller knows about Slade, as Argus working on a way to flush the Mirakuru out of his system is crucial to the season's 3-part finale. However, this episode only establishes that right at the end. And it's not even like we need this episode to establish Argus knowing about Slade, or, since they don't know his true identity, Deathstroke anyway. It's established throughout seasons 1 and 2 that Argus keeps track of persons of interests like Deadshot in Unfinished Business, Bronze Tiger in Tremors, and Nissa Al Ghul in Heir to the Demon. Though that last one is very briefly. And if Slade is going around in that new suit of his, I'd be willing to bet that Argus has eyes on him. You don't need to be told that on screen. Although, to play devil's advocate, they do need to establish that it's Slade in the suit that Argus is looking into, so that they know to make the Mirakuru cure. So, in that sense, you could probably give this one a higher importance score, but I still think a 3 is the highest I can go. And as for entertainment, I'm gonna give this one a high 4. That gives Suicide Squad a score of 19 out of 25. Now let's get into the wrap-up. With this episode being one of the only outings for the Suicide Squad on the CW, and working as a quasi-backdoor pilot for a spin-off series, I decided to put my money where my mouth is and pitch what a possible first season of a Suicide Squad series could have looked like. The overarching theme of the season will be that nobody is beyond redemption. To me, that's something the Suicide Squad really stands for. It's this team made up of really shitty people that are being forced to do lots of non-shitty things by the powers that be. The team would be constructed of Michael Rowe's Deadshot and Michael Jai White's Bronze Tiger as the main field agents, and Audrey Marie Anderson's Lila Michaels as the major support. They would also pick up a few new members during the series' pilot and opening episodes. These new members would include Manu Bennett's Deathstroke, but that would be it for returning Arrow cast members. I did think about including Amy Gumanik's Cupid in the first season's back half, though. The series would introduce us to 2 new characters that would play critical roles. These characters are Nightshade, aka Eve Eden, and Blockbuster, aka Mark Desmond. I'm less concerned about using a specific canon version of the Suicide Squad, and I'm approaching it more with a greatest hits from over the years approach. I also wanted to include a mix of both human and superpowered characters, since the particle accelerator explosion means that there's superpowered people out there now, and Argus is probably keeping an eye out for them. Amanda Waller and Deadshot are taking the roles of the series' co-leads, as they were the biggest selling points of the original Suicide Squad episode. Waller will almost always be in an antagonistic role towards the squad despite being the leader, and will often remind them of what will happen if they don't follow her orders. Maybe in the pilot we even get a reminder of that danger by her terminating a prospective Suicide Squad member like she did with Shrapnel in the original episode. Deadshot's major arc throughout the season will be to realize that he's not only capable of doing good, but is willing to do it without the threat of death looming over him. And this can be reinforced by partnering him up with Lila in most scenes, as she's now going to be taking a more supportive role on the squad. The series would also feature David Ramsey's John Diggle in at least one guest appearance, and he would comment on how far Lawton's come since the backdoor pilot episode. Bronze Tiger and Deathstroke wouldn't have very fleshed out arcs, since Slade was just the main villain of an entire season of Arrow after all. Slade's major reason for being here is because he's an asset that Amanda Waller isn't going to pass up on, and his inclusion is less about developing the character as it is returning the character to how we saw him during the flashbacks and during his 2-part send-off in Arrow Season 6. As for Turner, he'll act as Lawton's right-hand man. They could relate to each other about how they each have kids in Starling that they're trying to be better for. I imagine Slade's inclusion on the team would put him at odds with every returning cast member, though highlighting a rivalry with Bronze Tiger would make for a good moment of payoff in the season's final episodes where the two are forced to team up for a massive hallway fight. As for the new team members, Eve Eden will have the power of line-of-sight teleportation like Peekaboo from the Flash episode Crazy for You. This does make her powers different from her comics incarnation, but Arrow already changed Slade's whole rivalry with Batman and replaced it with Green Arrow. Fudging comic details is kinda CW 101. Her family will have been visiting Central City from abroad when the particle accelerator exploded. Eve's arc in the season isn't about redemption like the other squad members, but will rather be about learning that she's not beholden by the actions of her family, which will play a major role in the season's back half. Her and Lawton will actually end up in very similar places at the end of the season, as they will both be more than willing to continue on with the squad without needing more incentive. Mark Desmond's powers are enhanced strength, speed, and endurance, and he will serve as the team's de facto tank. He was in the process of experimenting on himself on the night of the particle accelerator explosion, and was recruited by Argus after being apprehended committing crimes for his brother Roland. He wouldn't have the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of thing going on like in the comics, though, and I imagine him working more as a lab tech or doing most of the CW science talk. He would only join the field agents when absolutely necessary. But that's enough about the characters. How would the season's plot go? Well, despite this hypothetical series first premiering in 2014-15, I imagine the first season being only 13 episodes long. I would do this both so that the series doesn't become super repetitive, but also because it typically enables tighter storytelling. And for the plot I decided to go with, a shorter season and tighter storytelling would definitely work better. For the first 6-ish episodes, the season would focus mostly on developing the characters. There will be a few hints towards a major seasonal threat, but nothing massive until episode 7, where Amanda Waller sends the team to Starfish Island. There's an experiment of some kind happening at a factory on the island, and it's being conducted on trafficked metahumans. It's an all-hands-on-deck operation, and the entire squad spends the episode in the humid island jungles. During the episode's climax, Eve finds out that the lead doctor on the experiments is her father, Warren. The squad will have him at gunpoint, but he will threaten to kill Eve's brother Larry if they don't let him go. Waller will order them to take Warren in for questioning, but Eve is obviously against the idea. Lila and, surprisingly, Lawton will take her side on this matter, with Turner, Slade, and Desmond opposing the decision. Turner and Desmond especially won't be too fond of Starfish Island's humid climate, so they just want to get the mission over with and go home. Waller threatens to terminate Eve and Lawton if they don't cooperate, but Lila attempts to negotiate with her to try and buy time to find Eve's brother. However, as more soldiers arrive on the island, the team makes the decision that they have no choice but to take Warren prisoner. This leaves the squad in disarray, which for an ensemble cast show would make for a hugely different structure over the following episodes. And immediately following that huge event, episode 8 would be a slower bottle episode that tries and fails to build the team back up. Instead of seeing a mission, we'll see them go through a large amount of routine training exercises. Maybe we even get a cameo from Oliver Queen as he hands the squad their asses because they aren't working together as a cohesive unit. Plus, then we could get some great banter between him and Slade, and see him officially blacklist Waller since she recruited Slade to the squad. Honestly, I see this episode acting less as a way to put the team back together, and more as an episode to solidify them all going off in their own directions. This would then lead to their next mission going wildly not according to plan. Half the squad would be captured and forced to overcome their differences and work together to find a way out. And at the end, Waller would be majorly pissed because they didn't get the job done in the most efficient way possible. Maybe the government will even threaten to terminate the Suicide Squad altogether and attempt to force Waller to resign as the director of Argus. But for the last 4 episodes, the squad will be directly confronting the season's main villain, the international criminal organization, Jihad. They will find out that Jihad's goal is to capture as many metahumans as possible, including Eve, and recreate and harness the power of the particle accelerator explosion. If they had exclusive access to metahumans, they could control the way the world works and create a new worldwide empire. I know it's not the most complex villain motivation out there, but the point of a Suicide Squad series isn't to make a complex villain. The point is to see a bunch of bad guys save the world, and maybe learn to be a little less bad along the way. Argus will be infiltrated, and Waller and Eve will be taken prisoner, which forces Lila to take command of the squad for the first time. This then forces Waller and Eve to overcome their differences and work together to escape from Jihad's captivity and return to the rest of the squad. Maybe them being forced to work together and kinda enjoy each other's company allows us to learn about Waller's backstory, though I'm not really sold on that idea as it might cheapen how she acts throughout the series. The season ends with the squad saving the day, Eve killing her father, Deadshot telling his daughter about how he saved the world, Lila giving birth to baby Sarah, and Slade getting retired back to the prison on Lian-Yu because he will have remembered what it was like to be part of a team again and realize his betrayal of Oliver went a little deeper than he thought. And with that, the season will wrap as we await the endings of the other series at the end of the year. Let me know what you guys think of my pitch for a Suicide Squad show in the comments. I'm not 100% sold on anything, and it definitely needs some ironing out. I came up with this story by myself in like a few days, and it takes writers for film and television several months to iron out all the details of these kinds of stories. This wasn't something I even originally planned on putting in this video, but I figured, hey, I'm a DC fan and I write in my free time, so why not throw my hat in the ring? But anyway, that is it for this episode, guys. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. That'd be greatly appreciated. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already so that you can join us as soon as friggin' possible. And while I'm plugging everything else, be sure to click the bell so that you get notified whenever we upload one of these crappy videos. But apart from that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys. This is Demigod Shmurda. Edge!